Each motif in the 10 squared headbands has a different setup row, but the setup rows all share the same structure. The purpose of the setup rows is to create the cables and establish their colors. Each KFB, or 0 into 2, establishes a cable. The instructions for your motif will tell you what color to make each cable. The KFBs near the beginning and the end of the setup row each create a single cable. You will be working this repeat 5 times. In each repeat, you will create 1 pair of cables. I have 29 stitches on my needles and I'm ready to work setup row 1. The first stitch is a knit through the back loop. You'll work it through both loops of that first stitch, and you'll knit it through the back loop with only the color specified as edge 1. You will purl into both loops of the next stitch with your marl. We'll be establishing our first cable with a knit front and back into both loops of the next stitch. Use the yarn in the color specified in the pattern. In this case, I used the red. You could have done the same thing with the gray as well. Next, I'll purl 3. Then I'll create my first pair of cables. I create the first cable by knitting through the front and the back of the next stitch in the color specified. This creates 2 stitches. Each stitch has 1 loop on the needle. Now I'll work the 0 into 2. This is done by inserting the left needle from front to back into the strand that is between the 2 stitches. I'll knit into the back and then the front of this strand with the color specified. On your needles, you'll see 4 stitches, each that has 1 loop on the needle. This has established the first pair of cables. I'll work the repeat again over the next 4 stitches. I'll purl 3. I'll knit through the front and back of this next stitch with the color specified. Then I'll pick up the strand between the next 2 stitches from front to back with my left needle. I'll knit into the back and the front of that strand with the color specified. This repeat is worked 5 times. After I finish the repeats, I'll purl 3. Then I'll establish the last cable with a knit front and back in the color specified. I finish the row with a purl 1 and a slip 1 with a marl in front. There is a different setup row 2 for every motif as well. In all the places where you created cables for side 1, you will be slipping those stitches in side 2. When working this row, look for the places where you purled 3 on setup row 1. You will be creating the pairs of cables in the middle of those 3 stitches on setup row 2. Please check your instructions for the color in which to create the cables, as each motif is different. As you're working side 2, look for 3 stitches in a row, each that have 2 loops on the needle. The pairs of cables for side 2 will be created in the middle of these 3 stitches. I'll start this row by knitting into the back loop of the first stitch with the color specified, and then purling 1. The next 2 stitches each have 1 loop on the needle, and they present as purls. Those were the stitches that were increased into the fabric on the previous row. We're going to slip those purlwise with our marl in front. Now I've come to 3 stitches. Each stitch has 2 loops on the needle. I'll purl the first stitch. I'll knit through the front and the back of the second stitch with the color specified. I'll next work a 0 into 2 by inserting my left needle from front to back under the strand before the next stitch. I'll knit into the back and then the front of that strand with the color specified. I'll purl that last stitch that has 2 loops on the needle. The next 4 stitches each have 1 loop on the needle. Each of those will be slipped purlwise with our marl in front. We've come to another 3 stitches, each with 2 loops on the needle. We'll work the repeat again until we've created 6 pairs of cables on side 2. The row ends with a purl 1, slip 1.